GNT show is intended for mature audiences. Parental discussion is advice. Live long and prosper.
Are friends with benefits?
Speaking of having a good time, Terry.
Mm-hmm.
Dayton broke the G&T show. This is now the David Mack
Appreciation Hour.
What is it about this guy that people love him so much?
With his purple velvet cape and his crown. I thought it was a little much when he had us carry him in the studio on a throne.
I am awesome! Look what I have done! Look what I have brought upon the world!
There is an urge to go nya 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 nya.
I heard rumors that you might be working on something else, but we won't prod much. I'm gonna say it.
I'm gonna pry a little.
Dare you! How dare you ask me to change it? Do you not understand the majesty of my genius? And the guy sitting next to me looked at me like he was, like I'd crapped in his hat.
Yeah, it's the professionalism that sells the show. That's right.
Hello, everyone. This is Mike Ceridium with another GNT Show supplemental log from Cryptic Studios. Joining me today is Thomas the Cryptic Cat and the lovely Adrian.
Why don't I get to be lovely?
I know, right?
Oh, sir, you are you are a handsome fellow.
The lovely Thomas the Cat.
He's so cuddly. Okay. So how you doing, Thomas?
Doing all right, keeping busy. Excited. We just shipped the Tier 6 vet ships, and that was it was fun working on those. And now we're doing other things that I can't really talk about yet.
So you're designing more ships lately than some of the user interface stuff?
Yeah, actually, I haven't really been scheduled on UI since November, so I've been officially a ship artist now.
Oh, right on. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
The Zindi ship was yours?
Mm-hmm. The Zindi ship, let's see, as far as canon ships, the Zindi ship, and then obviously I rebuilt the Galaxy, the canon Galaxy model, and then the Pathfinder and Andromeda, and all of the Klingon pilot ships.
I love those Raptors.
No, thanks.
Those are awesome. If you haven't flown them, you definitely need to check them out because they're beautiful and they handle like a dream.
Yeah.
So very, very good. Thank you. What does designing a ship? What's that process like?
When you say designing a ship, you can mean at least three things.
Okay.
You can mean actually building out the stats, which I don't do. That happens. The system design guys do that. Phil Zaleski, Gorgonzola, or Bordicus. Those guys are the systems designers, so they design the stats of the ship, how it handles, what its special powers are, what its traits are. The second thing you can mean is actually figure out what the ship will look like, and that's generally what our concept artist Hector does. He's the one who stares at a blank piece of paper and says, okay, well, crap, now I have to make this into a starship, So, and the third thing I guess you could mean is actually taking the concept art that Hector makes and actually build it into the ship in 3D that actually goes into the game and gets implemented as an art asset for the game. So that's what I do. I do the third part, and sometimes I do the second part. For the Pathfinder and the Andromeda, I was lucky enough to actually be the person who got to figure out, okay, what's the 25th century version of the Intrepid and Galaxy, even beyond the Bellerophon adventure. So I really I love doing that. I love doing the concept art part of it. So I dip my toe into that when I can, but mainly my main responsibilities are actually building the ship in 3D. So generally, in terms of timeline, it happens exactly how I said, where first systems guys will come up with, okay, these are the stats, this is what how it needs to function. Then we take that as ship artists, and Hector will come up with, kind of ideas based on that, kick things around in terms of, okay, well, if it has pilot abilities, that means it needs to be small, needs to look maneuverable, needs to be sleek, that kind of thing. And then we'll take Hector's concepts and model them and implement them into the game.
And do you find it difficult taking a static 2D image and creating something that's 3D and
Sure. Well, it's actually, I mean, there are different situations because you can take in the scenario where you're designing where you're building a cannon ship. Then what you do is you go online and find as much reference as you possibly can.
Go to the source material.
Right, and in some ways that's the most difficult thing to do because for example, when I rebuilt the Galaxy model, there are actually 4 Canon Galaxy versions, I think, because there's a 6-foot model that they built for the next generation. They also built a 4-foot model for the next generation. Then they built a CG model for Deep Space Nine, and then they built a CG model for These Are the Voyages on Enterprise. That was actually a different CG model than the one they used.
Oh wow! I did not know that.
Yeah. So when you're looking at referencing, and then of course all the literally thousands of fan recreations or whatever you find out, they look really good, but they're not canon. So when you're looking for reference, you have to be real careful about what images you're pulling from and what your inspiration is and what you're checking yourself against, because you might be looking at a fan CGI model that looks just like the real thing, but it might be a little bit different. And I noticed when the new Galaxy came out, some people even called me out on it. It's like, well, it looks like you used the deflector from the 4-foot model instead of the 6-foot model.
Oh my gosh!
You can't. In some ways, you can't win, and that actually happened because the schematics I was using were based on the 4-foot model instead of the 6-foot model. I mean, I'm really proud of it. I think it turned out real well, but those are the details people pay attention to, and so you at least have to be mindful of the fact that
we're nerds.
Yeah, people scrutinize it. It's pretty amazing. So in a sense, I think the most challenging thing is taking something canon like that and really trying to get it down exactly. And then the next most challenging thing is something that it would be making a kind of more obscure canon ship like the Xindi thing, where I had some reference, but there wasn't a lot to work with. I mean, with the Galaxy, I had literally hundreds of photos of a model from the Christie's auction that I could look at and and zoom in real see, and I was like, oh, that's exactly how that detail goes. That's exactly where that decal goes. But I didn't have any of that with the Xindi ship, so there was a lot of and I guess it's like, I guess that's okay. I guess that's close enough. So that's a little challenging because somebody else might be okay with fudging a little bit. I want to get it as close as I possibly can. So it's sometimes I just have to move on because I'm just never going to know. I'm never going to get access to the original CG model, and that'd be the only way to know if I was doing it exactly right. So then the third thing would be just basing it off of concept that Hector makes, which is probably the easiest thing to do because Hector is right down the hall. I can just go and ask him, hey, what did you mean here? Or I can talk to the art lead and say, how did you envision the backside of this looking? We don't exactly have a drawing for it. Or I can just make it up myself. So yeah, that's kind of the descending scale of how difficult it is in terms of translating these 2D images into something that shows up in 3D in game.
Right on. And what you described for the Enterprise D, yeah, I see that now. I didn't realize that there would be so much scrutiny, but yeah, wow. And so that definitely makes your job probably just that much more stressful, knowing that there's people that are taking a microscope to it. But
sure.
But what ship have you created that is your favorite?
So far is probably the Andromeda. I think that one. My design goal for the Andromeda was to make something that looked like it was always at warp, even though it was just sitting there. So that's why it's really swoop forward. You remember when the Enterprise D goes to warp in the next generation, the ship stretches out, right? And so basically in my head when I was designing the Andromeda, I just took a still frame of maybe right after that process starts, and it's like, okay, this is what it's going to look like. Just that stretched out version of the Galaxy that looks like it's really kinetic.
That's cool. I think that's the basis for that design.
Yeah,
I really like that design too.
Thanks. So I'm really happy with how that came out and that whole process of going through. I mean, I'm proud of that because I designed it, but the actual model I'm most proud of is probably the Canon Galaxy, just because I spent so much time trying to get that right. Yeah. And I think that I think it was worth it. And I think I would love to, if that were just my job, I'd be happy going back to the old models in STM and just cleaning them up and bringing them up to that standard.
Right on. Right on. So you're responsible for creating some of these new ships that we're getting, such as the 1,000-day vet reward ship.
Yeah, I just the Manticore. So we split it up. So we have 3 ship artists. One ship artist took a ship, and my ship was the Manticore, which was fun for me because
that was the Federation ship.
Yeah, it was the Federation ship, and that was based, of course, on the Chimera, which was probably my favorite ship in STO. The Chimera was actually a submission to the Design the Enterprise contest we had back in 2011 for designing the Enterprise F. And a guy named Jason Lee, who goes by Vector online, Vektor. He's actually a really famous Star Trek fan artist, has done some beautiful CG work, Enterprise models and things like that. He submitted that to us. And so for the original 1,000-day vet, we took that design. CBS didn't really think it felt like an Enterprise, so we couldn't use it for, it didn't win the Enterprise contest, but it was still a great design, so we took that and made it the 1,000-day vet ship. And then so it made, we wanted, we're doing this Tier 6 version of the vet ships, we wanted the parts to swap and everything, so we took that design and just kind of put the T6 material on it, and I gave it a little like mission pod, so it looked different, had a different profile from the Chimera. And we actually decided on the name for it before I had figured out what it was going to look like. So when we decided on Manticore, I wanted to add like a weapons pod on the top, like it was, the Manticore Stinger or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, and it was funny because the Manticore, my Chimera that my main character flew in STO, I named the USS Manticore. So when we decided to name this new class Manticore, I was like, yes.
Right on. Very cool. Very cool. We all know that you're a fan of Star Trek. Mm-hmm. What's your favorite series?
I grew up on TNG, so that kind of wins by default, I guess. I think if I were getting to Star Trek now, if somebody said, "Hey, you should check out Star Trek, it's all on Netflix," I think DS9 would probably be my favorite series, just because of the whole like arc storytelling, and DS9 has a really interesting cast of characters, and they're allowed to have like conflict between each themselves, and so yeah, I mean you really can't get better than Picard, but some days you just feel like Cisco.
Yeah. Besides Star Trek, what are some of your favorite sci-fi series?
Well, there's going back to Manticore a bit. There's the Honor Harrington book series by David Weber.
You've done some artwork for Honor Harrington, haven't you?
Yeah. I actually I did all of the artwork for the Honor Harrington companion called House of Steel. It came out a few years ago, and I did all of the internal artwork, so black and white color illustrations for that. Honor Harrington is really not quite hard, but it's harder than Star Trek military sci-fi. It's really cool though. It's really it's really robust, well-established universe with some pretty interesting characters, and it's fun because the perspective on battles are a lot more Newtonian than Star Trek is in terms of if you're speeding towards the enemy at thousands of kilometers per second, you actually have to turn over and thrust in the opposite direction to slow down, as opposed to just full stop. And there's in Star Trek there is no momentum, but Honor Harrington deals with stuff like that. And Manticore is actually another fun reference because the main character in the Honor Harrington series actually comes from a planet called Manticore. Mm-hmm. So it's been a fun for me to kind of cross.
It all connects.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if any of your fans have read Honor Harrington, they'll recognize one of the things I've done on STO was did the whole Odyssey uniform revamp for Starfleet. Went through all the Starfleet NPCs and made them wear the same uniforms. Set up a uniform standard.
That was very cool.
And
it's good to see everyone in uniform.
Yeah. and for the captains of starships have white shoulders, and that's actually was inspired by Honor Harrington, because the captains of starships in Honor Harrington, everybody, the normal officers and enlisted have black berets, and if you're the captain, you get to wear the white beret. And so that's another like little Honor Harrington in joke that I put into STO.
Have dandruff.
That's true. I mean that works out well too. Hopefully everybody has head and shoulders in the future, but
that's cool. It's really interesting to find out about the reason for certain designs.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. And one more shout out is Babylon 5. That's the other. I'm actually getting back into that. I've seen it a couple times, but I'm rewatching it now.
I'm trying to find a good price.
Yeah. If you want, when I'm done, I can just let you borrow mine because I have them on DVD.
Yeah. I'll keep divvying up eventually. own my own copy, but it would be awesome to not have to wait forever.
Yeah, that's
Lando. I love his hair.
Yeah.
I was curious. I don't know if it's an interesting question or not, but so playing the summer events and working towards the Ferengi ship. What were your thoughts on the design, and also why do they choose a Ferengi ship versus something else?
I think it looks cool. I didn't really have anything to do with it. It was built by Quackles, I think was his forum handle. He's moved on to another project, the Cryptic. But I thought he did a great job. I think the motivation for going through Ferengi was we thought people would be more interested in a ship that was tied to existing things in Star Trek a bit better. I mean, the Ryzian ships are cool, but they're just they could be from any sci-fi universe, right? There's nothing inherently Star Trek about them. Yeah. So by picking the Ferengi, which of any Star Trek species, they seem to jive the most with Ryza. Of any Star Trek species that has a ship, I guess we should say. Anyway, by picking them, that gave us an established design language so that we knew that people, when they saw that, it's like, oh, that's a Ferengi ship, that's familiar. That's I have a Ferengi character, I want that, So that was the kind of the thought process there.
I think it also gets people ready for what.
Right on. If you could be any species in Trek besides human, which one would you be? You're not gonna rule out Q. If you want to be on
why not? Who wouldn't pick that?
All right, that's our first Q.
Really?
How
many people do you ask this question to?
Everyone that we've interviewed.
Really?
And you're our first Q.
Races, cultures, they don't think of the Q.
Maybe you have a god complex then or something.
I am the creator of everything.
They're thinking of all these other abilities and the way that each one looks, and they're like, okay, the Vulcan because of pointed ears, or okay, because
Yeah, they're thinking a little bit more mortal. It's like I'm gonna be Bajoran, whatever, and it's like, okay, I want to rule the universe. Time and space are my bitch.
Yeah, come on.
He was good.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah. Right on. Let's see. Do you read the Star Trek novels?
I did. I read a few of the Titan books a while back. I haven't really gotten into them lately. I think I read the first Vanguard book and stuff, and I understand now they have a much tighter continuity within them than they used to. I know that Terry used to have mixed feelings about that because she liked the fact that you could skip one and it wouldn't matter, or if you really didn't like one, you could just ignore it. But now you kind of have to take them all.
It's nice having a choice. I think, I like continuity, but I also like jumping around. The only thing I can compare it to is Dragonlance, which had so many books, and some of them were single shots, and you could find the ones that were just that.
They have been doing more and more standalones.
Oh, really? Okay.
So most of them tend to be like novellas,
right?
But
I did enjoy Tales from the Dominion War, and I also enjoyed, and these are older, but Articles of Federation. I really enjoyed that one.
I have not read that one yet, but it's on my short list.
Yeah. It's cool because it's basically West Wing meets Star Trek. And in fact, I actually thought it was a little too West Wing in the sense of they kind of took all of the positions that are in the American White House and just said, okay, here's the Star Trek version of what this guy does. And that wasn't bad, but I'm the kind of nerd who was like, okay, tell me exactly how the Federation Council works. Do you, is it old style, congressional Congress where each legislature from each world elects somebody, or is it direct representation like that?
I'm interested in that too, how it all works.
Yeah, because the Federation, as described as this utopia, and it's how do they make that society function, right? And I love the idea of Federation news shows and things like that, and what does the civilian in the Star Trek universe, what do they worry about politically? When all of your basic needs and most of your not basic needs are met, what do you care about what your elected officials do? And what do they do when you can just we can replicate soup for everybody, so Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
What what are
fascinating.
some of the important issues of the day?
Yeah.
Because if everyone's most basic needs are met, I mean, what is the most important thing
I think
that
it's
people worry about?
Protecting yourself from threats that are more powerful that could intend to use that for harm. So seeing the council and others in power as a barrier is important. So as long as you know that they are trying their best or that they are keeping you informed of what their latest technology maybe is or their latest communication effort, I think is important. So maybe that's an interesting thing to explore, that type of news.
Interesting. In some of the subsequent books that have come out since Articles of the Federation, some of those I've read, and every now and again, President Baco shows up, or there's been a news segment, a scene that so that's interesting that's where it originated from. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you. Do you have in the little reading that you have done? Do you have a favorite author? Just curious.
Peter David really sticks with me as far as Q Squared. That's another book that I read. I really enjoyed that a lot. I haven't read his Excalibur series though.
The Calhoun
books. Yeah, he's actually in STO. He's an NPC on K7. And actually, one of the things I did when I went through and updated all the uniforms was updated his costume and Icheb and a few of our bit cameo things to look more appropriate. But he's one that jumps out at me. I think Canada. Yeah, he did. I think he did Articles of the Federation. Is that right?
I think so. I'm not positive.
Yeah,
but I know he's
will yell at me. I'm sure. But I really enjoyed that, and I don't know. I don't want to say like I necessarily have a favorite. Who does kill it on the graphic novel scene is Don Byrne. I think his name is.
Okay.
He does some really cool stuff. He did a graphic novel, or it might not have originally been a graphic novel, but like a series about Number One from the Cage, like her taking her place on the original Enterprise with Pike and everything. So he's done a lot of really cool like TOS era stuff. So yeah, his stuff is really, because he not only writes it but he also illustrates it, and he does some really amazing things with his illustrations. And he actually also recently did a graphic novel that was done with I think they called it like photo illustrations or something, where he took screenshots and like manipulated in Photoshop to get new visuals based on screenshots of the show. So there's a lot of cool stuff there.
Right on. So you read more graphic novels, would you say, than
I'm all over the place, about half and half. I mean, I don't read as much as I'd like, but but yeah, I just kind of dip my toe into whatever is interesting at the minute.
Right on. Okay. The name of your starship. What would you name your starship?
Well, I mean, I had the Manicore for a while, which was it was an Honor Harrington reference. It was also when I pick a name for a starship, generally, and the U.S. Navy kind of does this. You take a look at the class of the ship, and then you pick the name of all of the subsequent ships in the same category as that class. So it kind of depends on like what the class of the ship is. So the Manticore is a logical name of a ship in the Chimera class. That's what I fly in SEO right now. I don't know. It kind of depends on like what type of ship it is. I'm that kind of nerd.
That's a unique answer. That's one we haven't gotten. Most people, it's like, I'm definitely flying this, or that.
Sure, yeah.
So, but that's interesting that you're taking it more of a more military like, or that's cool. Right on. If you can kill a Star Trek character, who would you murder?
Kill a Star Trek character? Who would I murder?
Well, it doesn't have to be murder.
Does it have to be a good character, or can it be a bad character?
It could be for any reason. If it would make an interesting story, or just because you hate him or her, or just for whatever reason. If you can kill someone, who would you want to kill?
To make an interesting story. I mean, nobody jumps out as, Ducat's a big jerk. I don't know. I think, I'm not going to answer this because I don't have a good answer, but there was, on April Fool's Day, there was a really cool Reddit thread talking about what would have happened if Picard had stayed on, if Patrick Stewart had stayed on The Next Generation past season 3. So the whole premise of the thread was that, that Picard had died at Wolf 359, right? And then the show became about Riker as captain. And there was a funny, you should go Google this.
I've seen it.
Have you seen it? Yeah. So you know how cool it is, all the speculation speculation about like it's just funny to see all this group think about the hypothetical like
it was this alternate universe was canon.
Right.
It was actually what happened,
right.
And they were speculating on what could have been if Picard had lived.
Right.
So the alternate universe became the Prime, so to speak, which was kind of what messed up everybody's head.
Yeah. I wish I could remember. I wish I could remember like some of the things. There's like, well, the show wouldn't have lasted 14 seasons, you know.
Yeah. I think if I remember correctly, one of the things that they had established was the idea that they were rotating characters more often, or captains more often. I liked that idea. Someone was in charge for a few years, someone else stepped in.
Right.
A few years later, they were shifted off either to a new position, a new ship, or whatever the case may be. I thought that was kind of a little more realistic than Picard being on board being captain for 12 years plus.
Right. Yeah, God, how long was it after Nemesis? It was, well, in the novels, God, it's got to be like 30 captain. Years or something.
Yeah.
He's captain of the Enterprise.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to sit down with us, Thomas. It's been a pleasure.
Sure, beats working.
Before we let you go, is there anything you want to tell us about either about yourself, what you're working on? Maybe give us a little hint about what's coming.
I only fired.
I'm making ships. Shut up, leave me alone.
Yeah, no, I just don't know. That's a good question for Al or
no problem.
But I think that's a lot of cool stuff. I'm not high enough on the totem pole to
no problem
to spoil anything for you. But I think everybody's going to the next. I'm looking forward to kind of the summer and fall release schedule for ships. I think there are going to be a lot of cool things coming up that people are going to really enjoy. So we're going to keep as I can definitely going to keep looking at ways to improve existing models and things like that. So we'll see. I did the Galaxy. I did mostly on my own time when I rebuilt the Galaxy. So it's all about finding time to make that kind of stuff happen. But it happens. So
very good. Well, again, thank you for joining us. This has been another GNT Show supplemental log from Cryptic Studios. I'm Mike Ceridium, and Kapla.
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 Music for the GNT Show is provided by Warp 11, Andrew Allen, Grethor, and 5 Year Mission. This has been a Busy Little Beaver production.